Welcome back to another esteemed episode of the 716 Sports Podcast. How's that, guys?
I feel like I'm so proud of you for learning after almost 2 years of having this mixer how to use it. But it sounded dope. So
I thought he was just down a very long hallway all by himself.
he really ran away from that mic real quick after the show started.
Yep. Flash. So, got a Bills loss, a frustrating Bills loss. Sabres, got some Sabres to talk about. Let's just get at it. Pitter patter, as they say, right?
That show is, I've heard about that show so much in the last couple of weeks. I feel like I'm morally obligated to start watching it because I cannot go anywhere without someone telling me to watch Letterkenny.
Oh, it's a real beaut. It's a real beaut.
So I'll have to get on it.
Yeah, get Hulu. It's cheap. All right, anyways, let's go. Let's talk.
So speaking of things that ran far away from things like Justin and that microphone, the Philadelphia Eagles ran and trampled all over the Buffalo Bills yesterday. And for the first time all season, and I guess it's good to say that it is the first time all season, we come in here on a Monday evening, and we did not have a close Bills game or a win or something to talk about. For the first time all season, it really feels like another team had their way with the Buffalo Bills. Just as a starting point, what do we make of that game yesterday, guys?
They played a good team, and they played poorly. And that's a recipe for getting walloped, and that's what happened. The Bills did no favors to themselves, and the Eagles, they're a good team. Like, the record aside, like, they do a lot of things good. Like, they do a lot of things well. Maybe nothing really well, but they do a lot of things well. 3 running backs were able to run all over the Bills yesterday. The linebacking core was able to make plays in the Bills' backfield. I think the Eagles are a good team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they finish with a good record.
Well, at one point during the game, I forget exactly when, they showed the comparison from the Eagles last year to this year, and they're tracking exactly, looks like they're going to track almost exactly the same as they did last year. And going into the season, we can't look at the Eagles record right now because going into the season, this is one of the games we thought the Bills could struggle in.
Yeah.
We thought that at this point they'd be 4-3 or 5-2, depending on Tennessee, really. They're 5-2. They're right where we expect them to be.
They'd be better than Vegas gave them 6 wins this year. So,
well, I'm talking about us.
No, I meant the Bills. Vegas gave them 6 wins this year.
No, I'm talking about how better than we expect, or where we expected them to be. Us in this room.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I mean, some of the people I heard at work today were acting like this was like the end of the season. It's all going to fall apart. 2 wins in their maybe 2 wins in their last 9 games. I mean, it was almost like doomsday. And it's like the defense has been carrying this team all season. There's going to be games where defense is not going to be able to carry this team. There's going to be games where if you're an offensive heavy team, your offense isn't going to be able to carry your team through the whole 16-game season, and the other unit or the other 2 units, special teams included, are going to have to step up. And this is one of those situations where the offense needed to step up and failed miserably to do so.
Yeah. I think that's the concern is we are 7 games into this season and 5-2. There's nothing that we're going to say here that is going to diminish that. And there's nothing that we're going to say here that is going to diminish how easy of a road it really feels like the Buffalo Bills have to the playoffs. And we can consider that a starting point. I think the problem is that 7 games in, we have 6 games where the defense was incredible. Or, 5 games. The Miami game, they were okay, but Miami's really bad.
Mediocre.
And then 1 game where they were bad. In the 5 games that they were very good, the team is 4-1. And how many of those games at any point now in 7 was the offense good or great? And I think the answer for me is 0 out of 7. And the sample size continues to grow every week. I know we don't want to pass judgment too quickly or too early on any facet of the offense, whether that's Josh Allen, the play calling, individual players, the offensive line. But the bigger that sample size continues to get without any signs of market improvement, the more concerning it gets to be. On top of that, this is compounded, I believe, because there's only really 2 good teams the Bills have played so far. I don't even know if I'd go as far as considering Philadelphia a quote-unquote good team. They got railroaded by the Dallas Cowboys, who the week before had lost to the Jets, who are not good. So the Eagles are 4-4, have one of the bottom 5 secondaries in the NFL, and came in here yesterday with a guy named Boston Scott. By the way, Boston Scott was a guy who scored a touchdown on the Bills yesterday. I would dare anyone to tell me a fact about Boston Scott other than he had 1 carry in yesterday's contest and it went for a touchdown. it was just one of those games, and now we've played two good teams in New England and Philadelphia, and both of those games are losses. And the bar for me is not just, okay, well, this team can get to the playoffs, because I really do think that they will and they can, because the road ahead of them is very beneficial to them, including two matchups with teams they've already beaten that combine for 2 wins as of the taping of the show, although Miami is hilariously up 14-0 early on against Pittsburgh. When you get to the playoffs, you're going to play teams that require both your offense and your defense to play well. And I have seen 0 games for the Buffalo Bills this season where their offense and their defense have played well. Sunday was the first one where neither of them played well, which made it particularly concerning. But I've got to see something from the offense sooner or later, or it's just going to be chalked up as one of those, you're going to walk into Houston as a 5 seed and lose by 30 points.
I don't want to steal Justin's point, so I won't say it, but I do think you make a really good point, Justin, especially your second one when you diagnose the 2 issues that they have. I'm just tired of everyone hating Dable, because I think that they're more unique in their play calls. You see them doing things that they haven't done in a long time. You see, some of the gadget plays and some of the different formations. And I don't look at Dable's play calling as the issue. I know everyone was mad about the quarterback sweep that led to a fumble, but for the most part, for years, it was like they ran the ball too much. And now yesterday they only ran it 12 times, which feels like maybe the pendulum swung too far the other way. But I think Dable's getting hate for drawing up a game plan that his team just didn't execute, that they didn't play well. How many times did Gore get to the second level and just miss breaking that one more tackle? Like, he would get up and he'd like pound himself on the leg because he'd get to the second level and get tackled. But I'm teeing you up, Justin, because you keep diagnosing 2 problems that you think the offense has, and I don't hear a lot of people talking about either one of them, and I think it's a good take.
Well, you can't say bad things about the Bills. You're not allowed to.
Nope, illegal.
It's against the rules.
Misdemeanor.
But Josh Allen can't read a defense, and the offensive line stinks. They put a lot of money into it, a lot of work into it, but they're still not very good. Dean Dawkins having a really rough season. The right tackle, the right side of the line is still not good. Yeah, the rotating pendulum is still on the right side of the offensive line. Only good player in that line is Mitch Morse.
Well, even he was caught going upfield.
Yeah, it's a penalty
multiple times in passing plays.
You mentioned the offensive line, and when we were calling the Buttes game, and I brought up the game on my phone during intermission, there was a play that Allen got sacked, and Miami had 4 rushers in the backfield, and Allen managed to dodge all 4 of them before a 5th defender, a linebacker, came in late and hit him. And in my mind, I wish he'd have thrown the ball away or something, but in my mind, I'm like, how many players did the Dolphins rush? Because if they rushed 4, it means they all got in the backfield. And the linebacker most likely was either spying on Allen or saw the opportunity to make a play. But even if they were rushing 7, how are 4 in the backfield at the start of a play?
But do you see why I don't care about what PFF says about the Bills' offensive line game scores?
Right.
Because when they're doing it right, they're usually good. Or you can have a player or 2, like usually the offensive tackles, depending on who they are at that point, taking a play off. But it averages out to be good.
Sure.
But there's sometimes where all of them just blow it. But there's a lot of plays where just 1 or 2 of those guys are just totally whiffing on it.
Well, and I wonder, too, how often, because Allen is able to extend a play and move the pocket or move out, that because he doesn't get hit or sacked, that doesn't look bad. I don't know what PFF uses as their standards, but it's like, oh, Josh Allen wasn't sacked. Josh Allen was only sacked twice. That's not a real number. I'm just saying. You look at the end of the game, oh, Allen was only sacked twice. Well, the reality was on 11 plays, he got flushed from the pocket as soon as he caught the ball because there was a free rusher. He just beat him, right? And that you can be easily deceived. I don't agree as much with the Allen not being able to read the defense because I think, Justin, on a play like the John Brown play that was broken up by Darby, Allen made the right read. He just didn't execute the throw. But also, John Brown, after the game, said in his post-game interview that he ran the wrong route. All that being said, if Allen throws that ball a second sooner or leads him more, either one of those things, it's a touchdown. Mm-hmm. And I don't know, Justin, maybe he's not reading the defense well. I think there's times that he does make the right read and he doesn't connect. So that makes it worse that when he doesn't make the right read, you know what I mean? It compounds it.
He struggles to read defenses.
Sure. Yeah, and
want to split hairs, Steven.
Well, like the reading defenses thing, I think there's 2 different elements of reading defenses. The one that Justin talks about a lot that I really agree with is he doesn't seem to have a great ability to diagnose defenses before the snap. That's what separates a
That's what I
good
mean,
quarterback
sorry.
from a great quarterback. A great quarterback, your Brett Favres and Peyton Mannings and Tom Brady's of the world.
Did you see Aaron Rodgers last night?
Oh, it's incredible.
Unbelievable.
No, it's because they go up to the line, like they got 20 seconds before the snap. They take 16 seconds barking out directions to everyone on their team, get everyone set, and they run a play perfectly.
They probably bark
the
out an
touchdown to Aaron
instruction
Jones
to everybody.
was just a masterclass. They get Jones out in the slot. He goes up to the line. They see a one-on-one on the outside with a linebacker on a running back. Changes the play entirely. Takes a snap, turns one step. It's a 65-yard touchdown. That's the kind of thing that separates Aaron Rodgers and the other truly cerebral quarterbacks from just good or great quarterbacks.
You can see Josh Allen doing a lot more this year than you never seen last year. A lot of hard counts before the snap, and whenever a play gets a player to jump, like a linebacker to jump, when he can see who's blitzing, then he makes he makes pretty good plays. But he can't read. He can't. He's not good at pre-snap reads.
Yeah.
And that's an important part of the position. And that's why he holds on to the ball too long. It's not because no one's open. Josh Brown's open nearly every play. Mm-hmm. He's just hanging out of the ball because he's not getting through all of his reads. Not making the right reads. I mean,
well, that whole getting the defense to jump thing, he also needs to be able to get Morris to snap the ball when the guy's offside,
or have a lineman jump, because if an lineman jumps now,
somebody needs to realize you're going to get a free 5 yards if you get the snap and it's a free play. If you have an offensive lineman jump with an offsides guy, it's 5 free yards.
Yep. I'm not even talking about that per se. I'm talking about when he's able to get linebackers. He's getting linebackers jumping a lot more this year.
Well,
when he's able to identify the mic that way, then he's
using a lot more hard counts.
Yeah,
you see him come up with the hard count, and that's right. He's trying to see what linebackers try to jump the play, because that does give him a pre-wrap read on a blitz and who's coming.
The only issue with that can be if you got a disciplined defense like the Patriots have or the Eagles had at points. If they're not jumping, then what do you gain from it? I feel like hard counting is the easy mode for trying to take advantage of younger or undisciplined players. What you've got to be able to do is figure out how you're going to read and handle defenses that are ready for what you're about to do. Mm-hmm. It's really a football that people who say that football happens too slow or there's not enough action in it, I think are missing what really goes on between the plays, which is really just a chess match between coordinators and then quarterbacks of the offense. In defense, you're going to consider like your middle linebacker or your defensive captain. They're both out there looking at what the other team has, and whatever your play call is from the sideline is such a small portion of what actually happens on the field, because an experienced player like you're training Allen to be and you're training Tremaine Edmonds to be is going to go out there and be like, well, there's a weakness. Let's go with that. And I'm not convinced that in a lot of situations, is the offensive line good? No, they have not been good this year. I think that we were expecting a big improvement in terms of the offensive line, and that has not really materialized for me. The only success they had yesterday was just battering Frank Gore's like old corpse directly at the middle of the defense until he could not go any further. I think that has not helped up. I don't see Allen from, albeit I'm not the biggest all-22 guy in the world, but there's got to be something else too that he's not seeing, not picking up on as many reads, because there's no way that 4 guys just missed a block.
Yeah.
At least not at the professional level like that. Not as often as it seems to happen to the Bills.
Sure.
Well, if Allen's not reading the defense well in front of him, maybe there are a lot of guys missing the block, because one of the things Allen's supposed to do is go up to the line. He's supposed to basically help set the offensive line protection.
Or the center can do that. Like Eric Wood said in most of his years in Buffalo, he was setting protections.
Well, if Allen is supposed to be calling out the mic, actually every play should know who the mic is based on who's out there. Mm-hmm. But if he's calling that out, then Morse would be checking and calling the proper protection based on what they identify on the line of the front and all that, how they're shaded, how they're lined up and everything. But there's something I think there's something missing. I think Allen's missing some of it. I think the offensive line is missing some of it. Doesn't help that you have 3 tackles on the team and none of them are doing anything worth the crap. I mean, like I said, what was it, last week or a couple weeks ago? If this was arena football, you'd probably have a decent line. But then Feliciano was the reason that Hauschka's PAT got blocked, because he went out and blocked the wrong way on the PAT. He went out instead of in. I mean, there's a lot of, and that's what it is with the Bills this season. It's a lot of mental mistakes. Mm-hmm. They're just doing stupid things out there.
There's a lot of people on the hate Daboll train, but I'm almost entirely.
I think Daboll's game plan will work with most any team if they execute.
Yeah, I'm not worried about his play calling, because he's not running the ball up the middle first down and second down, and then trying to throw it for 9 every third down. I'm all aboard the train of touches for Singletary because I don't know. Like I keep kind of like when Bill asked last week, I'm like, yeah, they're just kind of keep the shiny toy in the shed until they need it. That he struggled to get going yesterday. I'll give him that, but that touchdown was something. I tell you what,
struggled to get going, but he barely had any touches.
Correct.
I mean, you can't expect a rookie player coming back after a long absence with the injury to come right back in his first touch and explode. He had less than 5 touches yesterday.
I feel like his reward
scored.
His reward for the touchdown was like 3 touches the rest of the game.
I may not have an issue with the play calling per se, but I definitely have an issue with their personnel usage. I was driving to Harbor Center yesterday during the second quarter of the game, and a sentence that I heard said on air by John Murphy was incomplete pass deep to Patrick DeMarco.
Yes.
I do not want to hear the words deep pass and Patrick DeMarco.
I don't want to hear the word pass and Patrick DeMarco in the same sentence.
Well, don't forget his 25-yard gain on that swing pass
I'm
last
just
week.
tired of them looking to him as a target when you have Tyler Croft and Dawson Knox and
and you activate Foster, take McKenzie out of the game during that crazy windstorm, which you figure you could use McKenzie on some end arounds and things like that, but you end up not even having him active. You barely use Foster at all.
Foster had the one target deep.
DeMarco.
Yeah, he had the one target to Foster deep that he actually managed to underthrow, but you could blame the wind for that.
Yeah, I would blame the wind if he would complete that pass on a normal sunny day, so I won't blame the wind.
That's true.
And with any luck, that would have been the one that he actually had dialed in exactly right, but the wind took that one away specifically. You never know. I can't. We're watching the Sabres overtime, and they have somehow not scored a single goal. If you're wondering what we're all doing, wringing our hands. Middleton hit a crossbar. Hutton tried to give it away,
and
going to a shootout. So we'll talk about the game later. But the personnel usage, there's absolutely no way, no how that, first of all, Josh Allen should have as many designed runs as either of the running backs do. That's problem with it, number one. Problem number two is all Frank Gore is able to do is run the ball directly at Fletcher Cox, who is a top 3 defensive tackle in the NFL and almost single-handedly gave the Eagles 10 points by himself in the first half with a sack, forced fumble, and all of his other good play. You got to take the ball outside. The Eagles secondary is so bad they cut a cornerback like mid-season a week ago.
Orlando Scandrick got cut.
Yeah, and you don't attack that at all. You don't even if you can't attack them through the air because of the wind. I understand the weather situation is what it is. It limits what you're able to do through the air. Like swing passes, screen passes, get Singletary or Beasley or someone to the outside and make a defensive back make a play, because all season long these guys have been turnstiles, and instead your offensive play calling for the most part looked to be short passes and battering Frank Gore at the strength of a bad defense. And
it's funny because you talk about the play calling and the personnel usage and all that stuff, and they do some Dable has some really interesting things he's done with his team. We've talked about the Knox tight end sweeps before. There was a formation yesterday where Beasley was the running back in the backfield. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was just an easy little swing pass to a Singletary for that touchdown. I mean, they do the gadget plays with McKenzie, the jet sweeps, the snap, and just Allen just pushes it forward. McKenzie takes it out of the air and goes. I mean, they do a lot of different things. That's why I think it's a lot of execution. But this is also why I was worried last week about being happy with the Dolphins' win, even though it was ugly, because they weren't playing well and it wasn't going to work against a good team. And this kind of reminds me of the stretch 2 years ago, the Jets, Saints, and Chargers stretch 2 years ago, where the Bills really were not playing well. I think this could end up being a stretch like that, except hopefully they don't do badly against Washington Sunday. But this could shape up to be something like that. But hopefully something clicks in their heads this week in practice that they start getting it back together.
I feel like, just to change sides to the other side of the ball, I feel like the Bills never defended a screen pass in their lives before.
It was rough. It was to do like in space.
So you get, you get the free rusher at Wentz, which most screen passes you're designed. You want the linebackers hopefully to be blitzing a gap, and then they're thinking they're going to an easy play on the quarterback, and you pop it up and over. And just watching Dallas Goedert, collect a screen pass and take off for 18 yards is maddening. It's like, this should not be that hard to diagnose Like, you get beat by it once, fine. They got beat by like 7 screen passes yesterday, and it wasn't they were getting beat for 6 yards.
Yeah.
They were getting beat for 15, 20 yards.
And, I mean, the defense really started in the trenches. The Eagles have a much better offensive line than the Bills have shown that they have here this season. But it was odd seeing Milano and Edmonds and those guys seem kind of lost in space. That's been such a backbone of this team so far this season. It was weird to see them not being able to react to plays like that. Hopefully, again, just a kind of one-off scenario, bad game, go out there on Sunday. And I think the tough part is for a lot of people who aren't sure what to feel about this team, myself included, it is the Washington football team is bad. Their only win right now is against a Dolphins team that, as of current moment, does not have a win. They may have one by the time this podcast gets posted, but currently they do not have any wins. And what can you learn by beating that team? It's the same things. Like, what did you learn by beating Miami or beating the Jets without C.J. Mosley? What do you learn in these games? And I worry that when this team runs into a buzzsaw schedule, which doesn't maybe exist until the theoretical playoffs, they are not going to know how to react to playing a team that they can't just shove around.
That's why when they played Miami, I needed to see something from them, is because they needed to get their execution down, and they needed to take advantage of basically playing what should have amounted to a preseason game, talent-wise. They needed to take advantage of that to get their execution down to start building off that moving forward. That's why I wasn't happy with just the win, and that's why it kind of worried me. And as we sit here, Miami is going into halftime leading Pittsburgh, so...
Well, you never know. Again, Pittsburgh, another bad team, but
what's really frustrating me about the game yesterday is, like, it's a bad weather game, and the Bills act like they've never played a bad weather game in their below ground stadium that they practice in and play in all the time. Like, they were totally unprepared in playing strong winds. Like, you had the Eagles running all over them. Like, how would you not prepared for a strong rushing game? You know. And they barely rushed the ball. They ran they passed the ball 34 times. The Bills did. And you draft Josh Allen, and you want to say, oh, he's a good bad weather quarterback. Where is it?
Yeah, that's one of my main talking points. We were told up and down that you need a special kind of quarterback to play in Buffalo. You can't have your flashy Patrick Mahomes or Baker Mayfield type of quarterbacks who just have the more strong the West Coast style offense. You need a guy with a big cannon arm and big hands who's able to go out there and win games in all weather conditions.
Every pass he threw was flying through the air because he couldn't. It's just so windy. Like, and it's like, I forgot, right down to the opening, the coin flip. They should have deferred the ball and taken the proper side of the end the field.
That was a weird decision,
right? Like, it's their first time playing in a windy game in this stadium, and it's really frustrating. Like,
and that stadium is always like a wind tunnel down there at the one end.
I'm not a coordinator. I play video games. I play Madden. I'm an armchair guy. But, like, I feel like the logical thing to do is stack 8 guys in a box and force a struggling Carson Wentz to throw the ball in this windy stadium. But besides that, they got torn up on the ground, absolutely torched. And it's what pisses me off the most about the game on Sunday.
And when your 8th guy is going to be Poyer or Hyde, that's fine. Put the 8th guy in the box. I mean, it's not like you're having to do anything special to get that 8th guy, a capable 8th guy, in there.
It was just not good all around. We've had, even in the one loss to New England, I felt like we had a lot of strong things that we enjoyed from the game that we just wished that more things clicked. Yesterday's game against Philadelphia, it felt like there was very little, if anything, that we would consider a positive out of that football game.
There is nothing that you can look at and say that they can positively build on.
Tyler Croft had a couple nice catches.
What's also up with
sorry, I just had to be the
Allen's
optimist.
Sudden case of the fumbles.
Sudden case. This dude puts the ball on the ground.
I mean, this season he ran the ball so much last year, but he didn't fumble a lot last year.
I think he has more fumbles than games played this year, if I remember correctly.
Well, I'm talking about this year. Like, it wasn't an issue last year, as I'm saying.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this year, he's got an issue hanging on to the ball.
And on that
fumble in the end of the first half was the turning point of the game.
Yeah, it was a bummer that he lost that ball because it swung everything the other way. What I will say is he had the ball tucked, and he kind of got run into. I'm not, by no means am I excusing it. You have to protect the ball, but he wasn't out there with the ball, low and outside of his body. It was up in his armpit. Just got knocked out. So he still needs to protect the ball 110%. I think he fumbled the ball 3 times yesterday. They only lost one of them, but you cannot do that. I don't know.
I feel like defensive players in general in the NFL, because of how the rules have refocused on protecting quarterbacks from hits, I think in this modern age of the NFL, defensive players are getting smarter and just a lot better at attacking the football as opposed to attacking the player. Because you can just go swipe at a guy's hand and knock the ball loose like Peanut Tillman style. That's a great play 10 times out of 10. A lot of players, I think, are worried about landing on a quarterback wrong and drawing a flag. But what Fletcher Cox did yesterday in that first quarter to Josh Allen is the play that every defensive lineman in the NFL, you see them all going for it. See a quarterback's hand like that, they're not trying to drive into the back between his numbers. They're going right for that hand. And Allen's got to be careful, because any sensible defensive end, he's going to play a couple still this season, even on some bad teams. They're going to go right for that ball. Now, of course, ideally, you would like a left tackle who is preventing that guy from getting directly to the quarterback. That did not happen for points yesterday. But every good defensive player at points, no offensive line is going to keep your pocket entirely clean all the time. And when they don't, you just got to be responsible with the football. Sometimes that means just tucking the ball in, taking a sack, and living to fight another day. It's the same thing we talk about when he's making those bad throws down the field. Carrying the ball like LaShawn McCoy, trying to run around the pocket and find an outlet is
He keeps
as
fumbling
dangerous
this
as
year
forcing
too,
the
by
ball.
the way.
He does.
Yeah, he does.
Sorry,
Catching up to
little
him finally.
sidebar.
That was a bad one
Didn't mean to
yesterday.
derail that, but that was... I don't know.
It's frustrating because I think that Allen has a lot of the physical tools necessary to be a good quarterback in the NFL. And you see them not in succession or often in the same game to a level that becomes very frustrating. And I wish that people on the internet were a little more understanding that it's okay to criticize Josh Allen without pretending that everyone's trying to bury his career. If you say anything negatively about Josh Allen on Bill's Twitter, there are some very notable Buffalo media figures who will jump down your throat. And all I want to know is, how many career starts does Josh Allen have to have before I am allowed to publicly criticize his play? If the number is not 19, that's fine. Give me, is it 25? Is it 30? Is it 35? What number is it before we are allowed to criticize the play of a quarterback? Because the window of success in professional sports, and it's not just the NFL, window in where you judge someone in professional sports gets smaller and smaller because teams are not willing to sink years and years into projects that are not working. Mitch Trubisky, for example, in Chicago, no, he's worse and a little bit farther along the path than Josh Allen is, but people are moving on from Trubisky, Winston, Mariota. These are guys who were a year or two ahead of Josh Allen. In a year from now, if Josh Allen's playing the same way it is now, is it suddenly bad, but we just got to ignore the steps a year before? Or should we have discussions about what this team can do to improve him now? Because if nothing happens with his play between now and a year from now, I don't give a shit about whether they re-sign his contract or not.
Yep.
There is nothing he has shown me to this point in his career other than a hurdle over an Anthony Barr and a couple of decent throws across his body that led to wins in games that any NFL quarterback should have won with this team. I'm not impressed.
You get that one great throw every 45 throws, and I was like, "Oh my god, look, he's so good!" You know, and that's it. It's frustrating.
It's like your buddy you played like rec league basketball with, who chucks up a bunch of threes and like nails one once or twice a night. It's like, man, I still got it out there. It's like, yeah, you were 2 for 15, Tom.
I take all this personally. Everything you just said. I know you didn't want to use my name, but you might as well have, because that's me. So.
Well, the difference is you're not doing it for millions of dollars in front of.
I would like to
Las
try.
Vegas fans.
I would really like to
also
try.
love that.
Apologies to all rec league Toms out there who shoot 15 times to make 2 baskets.
It's interesting to me because like this defense, the Bills have a defense that allows them to have the ability to win now, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And the offense is the issue, and I don't think the whole offense is the issue. I think the issue is, getting the ball distributed properly, because they have a lot of talent on that offense. They've like John Brown and Beasley. They have really great talent, and then they got Devin Singletary, and Gore still got it. The problem is getting the ball into these guys' hands. And at what point do they say, should we try something to get more out of this team? I'm not saying you're pulling a plug on
won't happen
Allen.
this year because they're 5-2. That's why.
Well, yeah. Well, right now they are. If it gets to a dire point, if this offense just struggles throughout, and they're struggling to win games by
the offense could struggle throughout, and they could finish 11-5 this year and make the playoffs, and they're not changing anything.
And you know what? At worst,
I'm not disagreeing that they shouldn't. I'm just saying they won't. They could muddle through this year, finish 12-4, make the playoffs, and they'll change nothing.
This is so interesting.
The scary thing is, at worst, with the skill players around Allen, so we're not counting Allen in all this, but we're counting all the receivers, tight ends, running backs. At worst, in those other skill positions, they are respectable. At worst.
Yeah. Their receiving core is no longer a joke.
No.
Like Cole Beasley is known in the NFL, maybe because he played in Dallas, but he's known to be a great slot receiver. John Brown is making a name for himself.
Brown has been very good this series.
First down, John
one of
Brown.
the most consistent receivers in the NFL.
Can we talk about one positive?
Yeah.
The drive that they scored on, maybe it was all in the same drive, maybe not. There were several 3rd and 10 pluses that they converted on, like with nice plays. Like there were 2 or 3 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15 that they were able to convert on, which they for years, 3rd and long was a draw play, not converted. At best, it was an attempt downfield that maybe you got a flag on or so. This team throughout the season has actually shown the ability to convert on 3rd and long. 3rd and long no longer means punt, and it no longer means draw play.
Right. I think there are some measures, and I know we don't want to rag on the play calling. I don't think the play calling is necessarily wrong. I don't think that I am knowledgeable enough. I think if you want to critique play calling, you have to really be willing to look at every play from like an all-22 perspective or something equivalent to that. Because if you want to tell me that Brian Dable made the wrong play call, you would have to show me the play, show me that no one was open or no one was schemed open, and then I'd be like, okay, he shouldn't have called that, or the defense did a really good job covering it.
Or an outside rusher didn't get in untouched.
Right.
Or the guard didn't lose his block after half a second, whatever.
Right. And I would bet you in any offensive game plan, there are plays like that just don't work. Like no one, very rarely, unless you're maybe San Francisco on Sunday this past week where they put a 51 in Carolina, does everything you draw up seem to work. But I would bet you for every couple plays that are like that, it's like, oh, okay, well, that didn't work. They tried, it didn't work. There are plays where someone came through unblocked and changed the course of the play. There was a receiver open, but Allen's read was on the other side, or he didn't see that guy, or he was forced out of the pocket, or made a bad decision, or the running back didn't see the lane, or there was no lane because the defensive line was there. The coordinator gives the offense a design to work with. It's not. He's telling the quarterback how to paint the picture essentially of the play, and it's up to the quarterback and those around him how they use those tools to recreate this vision. And I'm not convinced at a lot of points that the offense is correctly using all the tools and resources that they have around them. I think there are a lot of the right people in place, especially at the wide receiver position. Now, you might argue they could use another big body wide receiver. I think that is an interesting thing I want to segue to, with the trade deadline being here tomorrow, I believe. Actually, today, when this podcast is coming out Tuesday morning. Do you think the Buffalo Bills should make a move? And if you think they should make a move, what do you want to see them targeting? Justin's putting his headphones back on, so this would be the natural chance for him to speak first because he's the most ready.
Trade, yeah, I think they should get some defensive tackle depth and offensive line depth, because the offensive line is already bad, and if someone gets hurt, it's going to get worse. So I want a DT and OL depth.
Yeah, with the injury to Harrison Phillips and some questionable play maybe from Star Latulele, that might not be a bad direction to look in. I feel like offensive line is always difficult to target when it comes to trading, because I feel like the lack of depth on the offensive line it's a Bills problem, but it feels like it's also a league-wide problem.
Yeah.
It's not a fun position to play. It's not as attractive for young and up-and-coming athletes. I feel like there is less depth at offensive line than there is at, say, running back or wide receiver or defensive back. That might just be my perception.
Even though as an offensive lineman, even though you're physically making contact every play with somebody, you really have the chance for some of the longest careers on the offensive line. Because most of your hits that you're giving and receiving aren't high speed, it's up in close. So it really does give you a chance for a longer career, but it's not glamorous, and it is a lot of work to be a lineman.
Steve, any thoughts on trade?
I would love for them to get an offensive lineman. I just never know if there's a market for him, because even if you're tanking, I mean, this sounds so stupid because they traded Laramie Tunsil, but most teams, when they're struggling to win, are not saying, let's shop our tackles. They're shopping skill positions. So I just don't know what there is to have. So can I make just an out there assessment and say another corner to play opposite of Trey? Because we saw Levi Wallace make some good plays yesterday. We saw Levi Wallace get exposed a few times yesterday. We saw you see Taron Johnson making some plays. And I know Taron was in the slot, but you see things happening. But they could use a DB on the other side of Trey, I think, to be. Doesn't need to be shut down, but they could use EJ Gaines if he was healthy, or just someone that they're patchworking the other side of the field, and I think it's showing a little bit.
Mike?
Right now, I don't know. Like Steve said, even if a team's tanking, you don't see them giving up offensive linemen. You don't see them saying, okay, let's trade our tackle that may be a good player, that may be something that's an asset.
I also think they're going to hold on to it for when you get good again. Like, we're just going to keep the offensive lineman. But anyway.
Which is kind of surprising, which is why it's a little surprising the Dolphins gave up Tunsil. But, I mean, I think defensive tackle depth could be something that could most easily be addressed. I mean, for the rest of it, they're mostly solid on the defense. Like you said, somebody to play opposite Trey White, but I mean, on the offense, I just don't know if there's any way to fix what I think is the number one problem, and that is the offensive tackles. I don't think there's any way to do it at this point. I mean, you're not going to have like Jordan Mills come in and play respectably after coming in off the street before he turned to total garbage, playing for 2 more years after that. Mm-hmm. But he played respectably enough to coming in as a free agent or trade or however they got him to finish off the rest of that season. But I don't see that being there. So I think maybe the only move you make is for a defensive tackle.
So I agree that I think the defensive tackle will be interesting if you can find some depth there. Another rotation guy in the middle of the line, especially after how you looked yesterday against one of the few competent rushing offenses you faced so far this year. Another area I would consider looking is, and it depends on the market. I know receiver has been bandied about a lot. I'm not necessarily looking for A.J. Green. I don't know that A.J. Green is a guy I care to have here. I think he's talented, but he has been injured and not playing all season. He is at the end of his contract, and he's 31 years old already. There are some interesting names that I have heard rumored are available. These are in no particular order. I'm not ranking them in terms of how much I want them. Supposedly Robbie Anderson of the Jets, possibly available. Corey Davis from Tennessee, possibly available. Dante Pettis from San Francisco. And then if you want to look at big body guy at the tight end position, supposedly also O.J. Howard from Tampa Bay might be available. They've barely used him, and Bruce Arians is not known for liking tight ends, and they've used Brate more than him. If you can get a guy like one of those four, maybe so I'm more personally leaning to Howard or Davis in the sense I want a big-bodied guy who can just body up defensive backs and safeties and make tough catches. I think Duke Johnson has a role. I don't think he's going to be a number 2 receiver ever on this team. I think a guy like that, if the asking price is right, those are some interesting names. I don't hate the concept of offensive line depth. I just don't see any team as willing to give you anything for a reasonable asking price, and I don't want to go out and do what Houston did for Laramie Tunsil or a guy like that, even though he might be the biggest. A guy like that might be the biggest mover of the skill level of this team. If you replace a guy with a really good tackle, I just don't want to mortgage the future on a hope that that guy can make the team that much better this year when I think there's a lot of unaddressed issues still.
When I heard O.J. Howard, my first thought is, who is the odd man out in that situation?
It's Sweeney for now, but he's
already out right now.
And eventually the answer is probably Tyler Kroft. If you think that Knox is more of the future than Kroft is, he had a couple of decent catches. I mean, but we're still waiting for him to show anything. He was basically a blocking tight end in Cincinnati, called into action because of repeated injuries to Tyler Eifert. I'm not convinced that he is a big offensive weapon in the sense that, you know, he's going to be a big catcher. He's an offensive weapon in the way that Lee Smith is an offensive weapon, but he's got way better hands.
You can line up O.J. Howard in the slot every play. Literally.
He's not a traditional tight end in that sense. Yeah.
Do you think maybe if you're saying Kroft was a blocking tight end in Cincinnati, do you think maybe you can move Mr. Penalty Problem Lee Smith out and use Kroft in Lee Smith's role?
I think that if you traded for O.J. Howard or a tight end of equivalent value, Lee Smith would absolutely be gone. I don't see any way around that. You're not moving Kroft or Knox. And Smith, although he appears to be liked a lot by the staff and used a lot by the staff, I think he would find his way out of here very quickly after that.
Just by his performance.
Yeah, well, the performance doesn't seem to bother them very much because they haven't changed anything about his usage. The performance does not seem to bother them very much at all. But by process of invested resources, if you trade for a guy, he's going to play.
Right.
And he would be the guy who was easiest to get rid of out of the available tight ends at that point. Although maybe they'll just keep 4 tight ends and cut Reuben Foster or something, knowing how they do things. So you never know. All right. We've beaten the Bills game, I feel like, to death. Before we break to our interview segment here tonight, do we have any dissenting voices on a Bills victory over the Washington Redskins? And do we have any voices who think that game is going to be way closer than it should be?
It'll be close, but it's a good... Listen, after that showing, what a great gift again that this schedule is, because it's not like they're in the buzzsaw. If you need to get right after a bad loss, what better team to play against than, Miami or Washington? They're interchangeable at this point, but the Redskins almost lost to the Dolphins.
They tried their best.
They tried really hard, but
Miami gave it right on back to them.
It's not like you have to roll into Foxborough now, and it's like, well, this season just took a real slight, real slip to the south.
Yeah, the Bills are fortuitous that a lot of these tougher games, the Eagles game, the Cowboys game, and the Patriots game, are spaced out, so they don't have to play these teams all in a row. And a lot of the other teams that you thought might be tough opponents, the Steelers don't look that good right now. Baltimore's going to be another tough game, but like Pittsburgh, you got Pittsburgh still, the Redskins, the Dolphins, and the Jets. That should get you to 9 easy. And you just got to do something else in the rest of your game. Pittsburgh just scored. They got to do something else in the rest of their games. 14-10. Miami's over Pittsburgh.
Cleveland and Denver.
Cleveland is real rough. Denver's not without Joe Flacco on Sunday. Notably.
One of the things that one of our coworkers was saying was they're kind of worried about Cleveland. But the funny thing is, Cleveland is one of those teams that they've got seemingly a lot of talent there, but they just don't know how to make it all work together. Their
play calling has been bad. I know I just said a little while ago that you shouldn't criticize the play calling if you don't know the situation. Allow me to describe to you a real thing that the Cleveland Browns did on Sunday against the New England Patriots. They had a 4th and 11 at their own 24-yard line and intentionally took a delay of game penalty so that they could go for it on 4th and 16 from their own 19 because they did not want to use a timeout.
Mm-hmm. Makes perfect sense.
So they intentionally went backwards 5 yards to stop the clock so that they could go for it on 4th and 16.
It makes it look not so bad when you don't get it, okay? It's harder to make a 4th and 16. So that
and if you do that, you should never admit it in your post-game press conference, which they also did. They're like, yeah, we did that intentionally. What do you mean you didn't think it was smart? That was Andy Reid levels of clock management displayed by Freddie Kitchens, and that ship that was sailing through primetime games is going to find a lot of those games relegated to 1 o'clock as they find other games to shoehorn in on Sunday nights. Because the coronation of the Cleveland Browns as AFC champions appears to have been a little bit premature. The Washington Redskins played Minnesota last Thursday on Thursday Night Football, so they have a little bit of a longer rest. Actually did a decent job, I think, of keeping the Vikings largely at bay. The Vikings were without Thielen, controlled the time of possession, but had to settle for a lot of field goals. So it will be on Buffalo's offense to really finish some drives, which is something that they have not been excellent at. Notable Redskins players to look out for. There aren't a ton of them. We don't know what the quarterback situation is going to be like. It might be Dwayne Haskins. It might be Colt McCoy. It might be Case Keenum. Adrian Peterson's still out there.
What's Joe Theismann doing?
Watching from the stands and being thankful he doesn't have to be associated with it.
Who knows? It could be one of us in this room somehow.
It really could. I wouldn't put it past it.
They'll be putting a call out to the Buffalo area for anybody who can walk upright.
I don't know the answer to this question, but I'd be curious if Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson is the oldest combined running back matchup in a very long time in the NFL in terms of starting running backs, because both those guys have seen their share, and the Redskins have a couple of young receivers. Terry McLaurin's had a pretty good season, but nothing that the Buffalo defense should not be able to handle. I think, again, a lot of the discussion one way or the other is going to come down to how the Buffalo offense performs. Can they take advantage of a defense that has been gashed up by teams such as the Philadelphia Eagles at other points this season? And if we come in here on Monday and if it's another 1-score win or a late 2-score win on a touchdown, defensive touchdown like the Miami game was, I don't know where anything moves. At that point, you're 6-2. And I sure expect that we come back in here next week and they're 6-2. But they're in danger of being the worst 6-2 football team I've ever watched. And I say that lovingly because I love watching a 6-2 football team a lot more than I like watching a 2-6 football team. But I hope that this Sunday is a game where they can do what they didn't do against Miami and just kind of lean into Washington and prove they're a better football team, at least for part of the game.
You're asking
Give me something. I realize that. I'm very needy. I expect a lot out of these teams. All right, I'm done ranting. Before we make our way to...
I think we've all had a good rant on the Bills tonight.
I think we all had a lot on our minds about it. We're going to transition sports here from football over to hockey, and we are excited to be joined by Buffalo Buttes goaltender Kelsey Newman, who takes some time out of here Monday night here to talk with us about her recent injury and the early season, and then upcoming games for the Buttes here as they get back into action here in the month of November.
Welcome back to the 716 Sports Podcast. Joined now by special guest, Buffalo Buttes goaltender Kelsey Newman. Kelsey, thanks for taking some time out to come on with us.
Oh, yeah, no problem.
Let's start with the most pressing issue. How are you feeling? So you started the game last Sunday, and we saw you get a little bit hobbled there. You don't have to tell us what the injury was. I did tweet you the best GIF I could find, and you said you were doing okay. But how's the rehab coming? How you're feeling? And let us know as much as you can about what happened.
So I'm feeling a lot better now. I took a few days off of the ice, which was not easy being a goalie coach and everything. But I just started putting skates back on last Friday and went out on the ice with the team with just my skates and a windsuit on, and then was coaching this week. So hoping that on Wednesday I have at least my gear on and I can jump in the net for a few shots.
We were nervous watching you on the bench because you looked like you were in some pretty good discomfort and some struggling to move. So from my perspective, hearing that you're already back on the ice, that's good news, because whatever happened, this is either you have some superhuman abilities or thankfully it wasn't as severe as we could have feared.
I think what you guys were witnessing on the bench was probably more of discomfort because my trainer was trying to shove a giant thing of ice down my hockey pants and it just was not fitting. So it was more comical.
That might steal the show tonight already. We might be able to just pack it in after
right
that.
now.
Yeah.
She came over and I was like, Darlene, I need ice. And she knew I needed ice after the first period, but told me I wasn't allowed to have it between periods and to wait until after the game. And I said, okay. And then when I really got injured in the second period,
she said you can't have ice yet. You have to wait till after the game.
Right away to go get it. So she went and she got it and she came back with, I guess they're using like hotel-sized trash bags for ice right now.
Sweet.
And so she came back with that, but it was completely full. So it was just a giant thing. And I was like, what am I supposed to do with this? And she's like, you just shove it down your pants. And I was like, no, that's not, like, I have leg pads on, Darlene. That's not going to work.
So Justin and I are calling the game. We're like, man, Kelsey's over there looking like she's having a really hard time. And meanwhile, you're just like, it doesn't fit in there.
Yeah.
Stop.
And then she was like, so we undid my chest protector, and then she tried that way. And I was like, Darlene, I have leg pads on my pants. She's like, can you move your pants? And I was like, no. Where are they going to go? Like, they can't go anywhere with leg pads. So that's why I didn't have any leg pads on when I came off the ice at the end of the second period. And one of the officials stopped me after the game and thanked me for giving her a good laugh, getting to watch me like skate half dressed off the ice after the second period. I was like, yeah, anything for you.
See, if you did not listen to the 716 Sports Podcast, no one in the world, including us, would have known this gem of a story.
World exclusive.
Right. All that being said, though, despite you not being able to finish the game Sunday, that your teammates were able to finish it without you. A solid weekend, 2 solid wins. I know that was 10 days ago now already, or for 8 days ago, whatever it is. So talk about that weekend. Talk about the weekend that was 2 big wins on home ice against Connecticut.
That was a huge weekend for us, especially coming off of a rough weekend in Boston the weekend before, and being able to come home and starting fresh out a new home rink, letting the fans experience what Northtown has to offer and everything. So it was really big that we were able to pull off the 2 wins the way that we did, especially with MJ's overtime goal in the first game, and then for the team to really just like rally together in the game that I got injured on Sunday to come together and finish off that game was big for us and for the fans. The fans really enjoyed it, which is all we can really ask for.
You mentioned MJ, and Justin and I took note of how good she is at moving the puck. She's a good skater, and on that overtime goal, she crept down to the face-off circle, obviously having the ability to do that with the power play, but she's good with the puck, and it showed. I think she had like 3 assists and a goal and 3 assists over the weekend, so there's a couple defenders on your team that are really good with the puck, but MJ really seemed to stand out this past weekend.
MJ, I love MJ. We sit close to each other in the locker room, and actually the charity, because I'm a teacher, and the charity that she has with Nate where they're donating money to the teacher's desk, I actually have a shopping trip there on Wednesday, and she's going to come with me so that she can check it out and everything. So I've been very impressed with what I've seen from her on and off the ice.
That's awesome. So we also had the privilege of talking to your coach, Mandy Cronin, a few times. So general manager and goalie coach. She's awesome. She gives us some good sound bites, and she really seems to be passionate, which is you could just tell when she's talking how excited she is and how proud of you women she is. But talk about her as a coach. We don't get to see that side of her, obviously. We tend to know the general manager, Mandy Cronin. Tell us about Coach Mandy Cronin.
Well, I don't know if you've seen the picture or the video of her where we win in overtime and she like just runs down to the glass and wants to be with us. That's pretty much what it's like with her as a coach too. It's always, we're always working, but she's always so positive and willing to talk to us about anything and everything and just making sure that she's there for us, which is really big. And it's something that I've really embraced this year with this coaching staff is how open they are and how much they want to be a part of our lives, and they want to make sure that we're all doing okay, not just as hockey players, but as people. And we all have the same mindset as a team, which is really huge. And the coaches are all on the same page with us too.
So a pretty cool story. You have two other goaltenders on the roster right now. There's Mariah and then Tiffany Sue, I believe from Taiwan. She got flown in just before the season started. She was on the ice for practice the Friday before the weekend against Connecticut. But that's got to be really awesome having someone from around the world, having another goaltender in the room with you girls to talk about her experiences. But so tell us what you can about Tiffany.
Well, so Tiffany and I actually have played because she lives in Rochester. She went to school in Rochester and everything. So we actually have played against each other when I played for my North Carolina team and she played for the Rochester team. And then our teams merged together. So we've been goalie partners for the last, I think, 2 or 3 years with the Lady Hurricanes, which is nice because I already knew her coming into it and everything, and having her at the practices, it's helpful. It's fun to have all three of us get along really well. It's kind of like a McLevman situation again, but not quite yet. But no, it's fun having her there. And Mariah and I, you can tell by Instagram that we're already like best friends, which is great too.
So a couple wins against Connecticut, now a few weeks off, which you said right before we started recording you're grateful for because of the injury, but back at it at Boston again, November 16th. But it feels like you ladies might be a different team than when you played them a few weeks ago.
I think it's definitely going to be a different team. We know what to expect from them now, and being able to watch them play against Minnesota and the Riveters last weekend and everything kind of, I think, gives us a little bit of an upper hand because we have a lot more film to watch of them than they do us, I would say, right now. And they're really hot right now, and I'm not going to take anything away from them. They're a great team, but I think if we play the way that we did towards the end of the game on Saturday and then how we played on Sunday, I think we have a way better chance of beating them this time around.
And then to Connecticut the next day to play the Whale again, and this would be the fourth time seeing them. So talk about some familiar faces. The fourth matchup with Connecticut the day after. So you play Boston on November 16th and Connecticut on November 17th.
I think one face that everyone's going to be watching for is probably Doyle because she likes to play chippy, which isn't a bad thing by any means. It's nice to bring a physical aspect to the game, but I think everyone's going to be kind of watching for her, and then it'll be interesting because I don't know if they have a game that Saturday or not. I'm assuming that they wouldn't, but interesting to see which goalie they go with because I think all three of their goalies have had time now.
And you mentioned Shannon Doyle. She stands out as a player for a couple of reasons. One, because she's really good on the puck and strong on the puck and pretty responsible defensively. But you did mention, I think things might get even more chippy than we saw because she's not afraid to take a penalty and from the penalty box let the referees know what she thinks of the call. So we have the privilege. Our broadcast booth, also known as scaffolding, is right over the penalty box, and we can usually hear the chirps, and she is very vocal, letting everyone know. Yeah, she's pretty vocal.
Probably hear a lot in that penalty box.
I'm sworn to secrecy.
I mean, I don't need you guys to tell me. One of the girls that was working in the penalty box in our Saturday game is actually like a little sister to me, and she came up to me after the game. We went to get food, and she was like, "Yeah, some of the things that were said in there."
They were all very nice things, Kelsey. They were especially saying nice things about you. They were saying how wonderful Kelsey Newman is from the penalty box.
I mean, my response to her, because she plays 19U right now and she's 16, was kind of like, hey, you can learn some things to use in your own game.
Yeah, that's right. You got to pocket some of those.
Exactly.
And Brooke should be listening too because she said she's not good at chirp, so she needs to pick some up.
Oh, so she just needs to visit the penalty box.
Yeah,
Got it.
take coincidentals with Shannon, and then when they go in the box, she can listen to Doyle chirp. See, I got this all figured out. This is why I don't coach hockey.
Love it.
Last thing that I have, I don't know if Justin, you are awesome on social media, incredibly active. We appreciate it because you retweet all our stuff as we kind of give some promotion to the Buttes. Obviously, we're involved with not only this podcast, but calling the games this year, but you are super active on social media. So we'll let you plug yourself because you know what? You are a brand on Twitter. You referenced Instagram. So please let us know where to find you on Twitter. I know the handle. This is not me not knowing the handle, but you can plug yourself on social media.
So Instagram is Lil Numi 31, and then Twitter's Lil Numi. And a fun fact, I typically get those two mixed up because
she actually might have just mixed them up right there. So I would be careful.
I didn't because I did it because I have one of them open right now, so that's how I knew which one to use. But yeah, no, sometimes I forget which one has the number and which one doesn't.
Numi is Neumy. Lil Numi.
Yeah, I have an older brother. So.
I thought that was your rapper handle.
Well, I mean, maybe one day Lev and I will drop a mixtape, but no, it's because
the world is
another thing you've heard here first. Another thing you've heard here first that Kelsey Newman's dropping a mixtape.
I feel like you guys have done pretty much everything on Instagram except for drop a mixtape, so I'll keep my ears out for it.
I don't. Okay, I've been in the car with Lev when we've been belting out some things. I don't think you want us to drop a mixtape, but like,
all the more reason we do.
We have, and this is an exclusive, we have had discussions, though, about creating a book of just our, like, chats, our texting conversations back and forth, because of how many times at least one of us mispronounces or misspells things. And so, like, when she asked me to be her maid of honor for her wedding in August, and when she sent me the original question, it came out Maid of Hobbit. So we have some really good typos, I guess you could call them, that we've honestly thought about being like, we should turn this into a book. Daily Conversations with Kelsey and Lev. Let's see what happens. But hasn't happened yet.
So the Buttes hit the road November 16th and 17th at Boston and then at Connecticut. You can catch those games on twitch.tv/NWHL. Then they come home the following weekend. Justin and I will have the call on Twitch, but back the 23rd and 24th, and you can get those tickets at nwhl.zone/tickets. Look at me go, just spitting it out.
Like a professional, Steve. I'm so proud.
Something like that.
And if they get tickets to those games, it's against the Whitecaps, so there's a good chance that there might be a McLevman duel at center ice at some point.
Excellent.
You're making a lot of promises. We need to write these down. We have a mixtape. We have a
the
duel.
mixtape was not a promise because no one wants that.
You might not have said that, but that's what I heard, and what I heard is all that matters.
Okay. Well, maybe both of us can go on the show that week, and then we'll see what happens.
This is happening. Yeah, this is happening. Just bank on it. All right.
Great together.
Kelsey, we appreciate your time. Keep getting healed up there. Best of luck on the road, and we'll see you in a few weeks when you and the ladies come back home.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, guys.
And thank you very much to Kelsey Newman for joining us. A very fun interview, and we do look forward to having her back on the air and hearing that mixtape whenever it does drop. I did want to mention something that she mentioned early on in that interview, and I think a very worthy cause that's been picked up. Our friend Nate Oliver, who has taken over a role as Buffalo Buttes community ambassador, is doing a great job getting our friends here, Steve and Justin, hooked up with stuff they need for the broadcast, but also doing a great job reaching out to the community. And one thing that he's done is teaming up with MJ Pelletier, as she is raising money for a local cause called the Teacher's Desk. Every shot that she blocks this year, Nate is donating $10 to the Teacher's Desk, which provides school supplies, allowing teachers to shop for school supplies for their students under their care. A lot of nonprofits, things like that, provides a great cause. As the son of a teacher who taught at a Catholic school for 30 plus years, it is a huge cause, very dear to me. So I would encourage anyone who's listening out to the podcast here to look up that thing and want to throw some money their way or make your own pledge alongside Nate and what he's done with MJ. It is a great cause they're doing here to raise money. I think it's one thing that the NWHL does really well is finding ways for their players and their teams to get involved in the communities. And there's a kinship between the players and the fans that I think is hard to find sometimes in other leagues. So I think they've done a really good job of that. While we're on hockey, now that we've sat here, you heard us moaning and groaning over the Sabres' fourth game since the last time we recorded, what ended up being a shootout loss to the Arizona Coyotes. Buffalo Sabres, though, still a really good start to the season. So the last time we were here, now they have gone 2-1-1, 5 points in 4 games. Not quite as torrid of a pace as they were on to start the season, but it feels like still a very good hockey team that, with the exception maybe of the Rangers game, has been in every game until the final moments, win or lose. And it feels like a whole new hockey season from what we saw last year. I mean, it literally is, but it feels like more than 1 year has passed us by. That came out wrong.
The people who were complaining about it being the same team, including someone sitting in this room, we've seen some contributions from the likes of Yoki Haru. Colin Miller's very good. VC was that line. It's such a bummer because they finally were starting to find a groove. Like Shiri goes out injured, he comes back, and that line had an absolute torrid pace out on the West Coast, and then VC goes down. And VC's week to week, so just kind of a bummer that they can't get that mojo going because they really did seem to find something. But Johansson looks really good. What a play to set up Jeff Skinner today. Mm-hmm. A beautiful pass, a beautiful play at the blue line. But the new faces are showing up and showing out, and the old faces look like they've got some new inspiration. They a lot of different play from the lines. We kind of touched on it already, but the longer this goes on, the better it feels. Obviously, that's maybe the dumbest thing I've said all night, but it's as silly as it is. They're past 10 games, and 10 games holds a special bad meaning to us after last year because of the 10-game win streak. Now what? They're 13 games in, first team to 20 points at 9-2-2, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, they're a seventh of the way through the season, and they're in first place in the NHL. Mm-hmm. And this wasn't on the back of a win streak; it was on the back of consistent play for 13 games. So the longer this goes on, the better and better it'll feel, and it feels pretty damn good. So
there were certainly some negatives over the last week in terms of results, but the one thing that stood out the most to me was a positive, and that was mainly how they responded in the second game of a back-to-back against Detroit. I feel like in a lot of recent seasons, that team that loses that game 6-2 to the Rangers does not come out sharp and handle the Red Wings. That was a game that you have to win if you want to be a team that is considered a playoff contender. They went out to Detroit, and they took care of business. It wasn't the flashiest game they've played this season. It wasn't the best. It didn't leave everyone in awe of, like, wow, this team looks amazing offensively. But you know what? Second day of a back-to-back, traveling to Detroit, they played a good 60-minute hockey game, and they took care of business.
2 shutouts after both losses. They got shutouts.
What do the charts say, though, Jeff? What do the charts say at the Red Wings game? The charts said very much differently. The charts.
You said not to find a negative or whatever. You know what else is not a negative? The third period of the Kings game and the Red Wings game. Because Justin and I talked a long time about the Kings game because everybody was up in arms about the shot totals and that, Hutton had to make 47 saves. Allmark Wade, 42 saves against. If you watch, they talked to Connor Sherry before the game today on WGR, and he mentioned that some people said that the third period was scrambly, and Paul Hamilton's like, I don't think it was. Maybe the last 3 minutes were scrambly, and Sherry's like, no, we were able to play our game and keep things outside, and nothing happened outside of what we wanted to happen. And that's 2 games in a row that, first off, after a loss, they respond with a shutout the next night, and also that they were able to absolutely pack in a game, but not weather the storm and survive, but dictate play. And it's not dictate play by having the puck all the time. It's dictating where shots come from. Mm-hmm. It's not taking penalties. It's not giving up a goal. It's not, playing stupid hockey. It's not getting scrambly in your own end. Like the Detroit game, I watched the whole game, and I was actually texting Justin during the game. I'm like, this is a great road game. It was like the beginning of the third period. I'm like, they're playing a great road game on the second night of a back-to-back where both games are on the road. We cannot forget that. They were not home the night before. They're in the Garden, got pumped, boarded a plane, flew to Detroit, and played a pretty complete 60-minute game.
And Detroit's what? About a 2-hour flight from New York City? So it's not like it's
not
like Anaheim to LA.
I was just going to say, it's not like they stayed in the same hotel. The Sabres stayed in the same hotel before the Anaheim game, after the Anaheim game, and then they got in the bus and got an escort.
Because it's only like 30 miles to LA from Anaheim.
Just letting them stay in the same place. But, their ability to respond, I think the podcast account and I separately, we both tweeted out after the loss to the Rangers, like, Justin, you were like, get some food, relax, like, get back at it tomorrow. And I'm like, I am not worried about this game because these games happen. Let's see how they respond. Well, they responded with a shutout again.
In previous years, this would have been either the Anaheim game or the Rangers game would have kicked off a losing streak. There was no way around it because the team would be so in their heads that they got beat by more than a goal or two that they would just carry that over into the next game.
Who would be mad if they lost to LA or lost to Detroit? You can't blame them. Like, man, second game of a back-to-back. You got pumped yesterday. You're not feeling great right now. The legs aren't there. No one would be mad if they go out and lay an egg on the second game of a back-to-back. They didn't.
It feels like, and not to go back to the well, it feels like part of the reason that this has happened so far is that I think that Ralph Kruger and his staff have done a very good job of not changing how things happen regardless of results. We talked about, well, why is Carter Hutton not playing after getting a shutout? Well, it's because we planned on having Linus Ullmark in the next game. Why are the lines not changing after a loss? Well, we think that these lines are working well and they'll bury through. And that same mindset of like, okay, well, obviously, if things continue to spiral, I'm sure something would change. But, okay, we had a bad game yesterday, but, we're not doing anything different today. We believe that our players are going to do the right thing. And you know what? In both those games against LA and Detroit, they went out the next game, and they did what the coaches needed them to do. They got enough goals. They held the fort. They had good goaltending to help out, especially.
Early leads in both games.
Right. And they've done a great job. Early offense has just been fantastic. Even tonight when they ended up losing that game, 2 goals to start off, let Arizona creep back into the game. Not Hutton's best shining moment on the Connor Garland goal.
Or either goal, really.
Either goal, really. But it feels like there's a sense of just consistency and peace with this team. And I think that starts from the top down. I feel like last year, the team that lost that Anaheim game, Halsey would have switched goaltenders, switched all 4 lines up. It would have been a whole different scramble in the first period. And maybe one of those pairs connects and you get something, you win that game. But it feels like a lot more often than not, that team would go out the next night and get a slow start. And if you start slow in the second game of a back-to-back,
good luck.
Your third period is the tough period because it's easy as easier as an athlete to get yourself going for that first period because you got your adrenaline pumping and you're in great shape. But by that third period, your sixth period in 24 hours, your legs are dragging. And that's why I think you see a lot more of the quote-unquote parking the bus mentality where like, okay, well, we can't really play dominant puck possession hockey, but we can keep them to the outside and make things easy for our goaltender. You can only play that kind of hockey because in the first period you came out and you did the same thing that you did the night before and got to another great start offensively. And if you're switching line combinations, how long does it take you to get used to, well, yesterday I skated with 23 and 53. Today I got 68 and 17. All 4 of these guys have very different skill sets, and I'm only getting 10 minutes on the fly to really learn how to do something with them. We skated this morning together against no real defensive pressure, and I think that this is just a different mindset in coaching, and so far it has bared through for me that this is how this team has to be handled presently. It doesn't mean that he's not going to keep switching things in the third period, putting Skinner up with Eichel and Reinhardt, maybe taking Olsen off some defensive assignments. It doesn't mean that when VC comes back, he's going to go right back in for Erod no matter how well Erod and the team are doing in general. But it feels like there's not panic. It felt like last year, every time they lost, it was a sense of panic. I think there's still that pervading sense of panic on Sabres Twitter sometimes because we expect the sky is falling in every time the Sabres lose because last year, every time the Sabres lose, the sky did in fact start falling in. But this time, I'm not worried about the loss tonight. Would I have liked 2 points? Absolutely. I'm happy they got 1, but I would have liked 2. But I'm not worried that the team that goes out the next game is going to carry over from this loss and not be able to get themselves in gear because they've shown to me that they can put this team back together, approach every game individually, put it behind them, and go out and just attack the next game.
And you know what? The thing about the people worried about the number of shots that the goalies faced, if they're packing it in the third period, just keeping everything to the outside. When I played goalie, that's what I'd rather have faced a lot of shots from the outside and had the clear line of sight and everything just coming from the outside, maybe face 40 or so shots from the outside, then have 20, 25, 30 shots, but 8, 10, 12 of them are high danger shots. I mean, that says a lot. If a lot of the shots are coming from the outside, it's a lot easier saves for the goalie. It's just makes everything a lot easier. And yeah, the shot total may be inflated, but the easier shots are to face, it doesn't feel that way.
It is promising, but makes you look forward to the next couple of years too. This team's still growing together, and there's some dead weight falling off this team after this year. But I'll tell you, I'm about done with this Vlad Sabalka second line experiment. He's not doing anything.
Got an assist tonight.
I don't give a crap. Like everyone else, like Like Hanson's got 9 points, Skinner's got 8 points, and there's Sabaka down there. He's like, hey, I'm here, I got 3. And they're all goofy assists too. Yeah, one really good assist a couple games ago, but I still think the lineup's not maximized. Like I don't need Skinner back with Eichel because he plays really well with Hansen. That's a really good line, but I really still want to see. I said it last week, but I still want to see Olofsson off that top line and Down was playing against a lesser defensive talent because I get that guy going and get him scoring again. They've gotten away from that play on the power play. They're not looking for that big one timer to him anymore. I think teams know it's coming, but good. He's just a decoy and get jacked the puck. Like I don't get it, but that Rangers win, they got throttled 6-2, but I don't think it was like 6-2 bad really.
Yeah, I mean, that game was close until the middle part of the third period.
Yeah.
They had some bad turnovers, but they were in that game for 50 minutes.
They were trying the behind the back BS passes.
Yeah, they really tried to play too cute in that game.
Well, they started off, the Rangers started off slowly. This is probably the fastest team the Sabres have played this year, honestly to date. They're a very young, fast team. And it looks like the Sabres struggled to start with the speed. They caught them off guard, I guess. Because a lot of the turnovers were just because the speed and pressuring the Sabres and causing bad turnovers. Darlene had a rough game that game, but...
You know what, though? Do you know the one thing, the one really, really big positive that I'm taking from, even at this point, is that their losses and their close games and all that, no matter what the result of the game has been, I don't see any effort issues. It's execution. It's things you can go out on into practice the next day and work on. I don't see anything that's like this person's taking shifts off. This person's not doing what they're supposed to be doing. It's execution. It's things that can be worked on. It's for some of these younger guys gelling, getting used to each other, and growing. I don't see any effort issues. I don't see anybody that is clueless, totally clueless. It's just small things right now.
Well, and sometimes shitty games happen. You went to the Garden, which is a tough place to play, not because the Rangers are great, but the Sabres always seem to struggle playing in the Garden.
Building in a fucking
and
world.
you lost, and 24 hours later, you're skating off the ice with a shutout.
I didn't see the whole Rangers game,
Yeah.
but I didn't get the feeling that they had given up at any point in that game.
No.
I didn't feel like that it was just, oh, I don't want to be here today. It was just they got outplayed. They either beat themselves with execution and or got outplayed.
No, the Rangers managed to bring the puck down and score. Like, as silly as it is, like a turnover ended up in the back of their net, which don't turn it over and it doesn't happen, but it wasn't the Rangers had 3 minutes of sustained zone time and buried one. It was a bad play.
For sure. It was undisciplined.
Darlene's turnover to Panarin on the first goal. Like, what the hell was that? Like, he has the puck on his stick, skates over the blue line, and just looks like me off the first tee at any golf course I've ever played on. He swings the stick.
I didn't think I would get this far.
The puck moves about 3 inches, and then Panarin comes in like, thank you. And Hutch tries for the poke check. You can blame Hutton there, but what do you do? It's Artemi Panarin alone. Like, and that set the pace for the game that, like, every turnover ended up in the back of their net. And it wasn't a game where they played poorly as far as puck control. They looked really good in the second period. They actually took play to the Rangers for, I felt, almost the whole second period. But guess what? They didn't score, and the Rangers end up with the puck, go down on a 2-on-1, and it's in the net. Like, it's
as much as we all wanted the Sabres to go when there were last 72 games of the season, go 81-1.
That would have been great.
That would have been amazing.
Except
I would
Pat.
have been here for
Except
it.
Pat, who wants to trade them for the. I hope he's listening. He wants to trade the undefeated 82-0 Sabres
for the Buffalo Destroyers. The nerve of that man, and also maybe an NBA team also on the side, but mainly just an arena football team. Big fan of that sport. You're just going to have games like that where the puck doesn't bounce your way. The Rangers made the most of it. Felt like almost every good opportunity they had to put the puck in the net. And credit to them, that's what good teams do, offensive teams. I think their Rangers are probably a little bit better than we're giving them credit for at the end of the day. MSG ice looks to be terrible. Maybe the puck's bouncing around a little bit more there on MSG the night after. I think there was a basketball game there the night before. The ice there feels like it's bad all the time. And the puck bounced away from the Sabres. But I'm not worried about it because that team went out and won the next game. They played a good game tonight that just did everything but score in overtime. Justin was about to pull his hair out on Middlestad on that shift where he hit the crossbar and then almost scored again. They had 3 or 4 really good chances to put that puck in and just couldn't get it to settle down. But first team to 20 points, first place in the NHL. I am nothing but positive about it because that is way better than I personally expected this team to be sitting at here at this point in the season.
We got a weird stretch now where they go 4 games in 16 days. And then after that, they come back and they got playing like every other day again until the end of the month, essentially.
Yeah, so Friday, November 8th and Saturday, November 9th is that back-to-back with Tampa Bay as part of the Global Series over in Stockholm. So there's about a 5-day window before that where they don't have any games, and there's a 4-day window after where they don't have any games to allow them to travel and get reaccustomed to time zones. So that's really scrunching the way you talk about the back-to-back and the busy schedule. They have a back-to-back again this Friday and Saturday against Washington and then home to the Islanders. So that's going to scrunch that all together. And then, so it's going to be a busy schedule. It will even out once you get towards the holiday season. It'll sort itself through, but it's a good test, and I think it's why you're seeing their insistence to continue to rotate the goaltenders, too, to make sure that neither of them gets too worn. You figure they'll both get 2 games this week. They'll both get a game in Sweden. But hopefully they can continue that pace of play. I think that if they continue, if they get 4 or 5 points out of this week, you're looking at those games against Tampa Bay and Sweden as a really big measuring stick for this team, because at this point you're like, okay, this team has been really good. Can they compete with the teams that are perceived to be the top teams? We haven't seen too many of those teams. They'll see Washington on Friday, and then they'll see Tampa Bay twice next week. And those are going to be the games that are going to really start to tell you, I think, what this team can be.
We get to see Obi versus Risto for the first time this year.
That's my favorite weird rivalry in hockey. Those two guys just go at each other.
At it.
You were talking a little bit before. We didn't talk about it on the show, Justin, but another thing that really seems to happen every year for the Sabres, every time the Sabres play San Jose, those games are just balls to the walls fun. For no reason
Fire
at all.
wagon hockey every time.
That game on Tuesday was just incredible to watch. And Jack's overtime goal and everything, it was just a fun hockey game. They got down in that game. I was informed by Jerry Sullivan that they were completely dogged for the first period. I've never watched hockey, so good for Jerry Sullivan telling me what I saw with my own eyes was incorrect. But they got those goals back. They forced it to overtime, and then just Jack Eichel just straight went, "I'm your dad" on the San Jose defense in overtime, and just force of willed that puck into the net. And that felt really good. Get a really weird home-and-home victories against a West Coast team like that. San Jose team that is always one of the top 5 teams of late in the West. That's a good team to get 4 points out of. But I think that looking ahead a little bit, there's obviously some tough games this week. That Tampa Bay series next weekend is really shaping up for me to be a measuring stick for this team, because we've done really good so far, but we saw it last year. The issue became consistency. Can they continue it?
This might be a little forward-looking, but I'm really curious to see if they're going to bring any extra bodies on that trip, just in case any injuries happen.
I think they should. Tampa and Philly and Chicago both took advantage of it.
Obviously, they recently just put Bogo on long-term IR, which freed up $5 million in cap space for them. So they have room to bring a couple extra bodies, and I think they will. I think they should. I wonder who it'll be.
I mean, I wonder if Montour's back by that point. He's got to be
he's very close. He's very close, and that would mean that Gilmore's back on as the 7th E. And
I'm very scared. What are they gonna do when he comes back? How long is Scandella out? And who do you take out? You can't take out Yogi Haru at this point.
I think if you're Marco Scandella, you really hope that you're back soon, because if Brandon Montour comes in and plays great, it just literally might be a wrong guy, wrong place scenario. I think Marco Scandella has been great this year, but someone's got to be the odd man out, and I don't know that there's an easy answer to that question right now.
I think it's McCabe at this point.
It might be McCabe. McCabe has been my answer all along, but I really feel like they like him in the organization.
He's wearing the A. I mean,
he's a good player. He's a strong defender. He's not going to generate offense for you from the back end, but he's a very strong defensively. No matter what your the charts say, you watch the game. I hate to be this guy, but he's very good defensively. But
I mean, Scandella's been good. Yogi Haru's been great. Miller's been great. Risto's been Risto. And then Montour's got to slide in there somewhere.
And the Sabres entered tonight with the 4th best tandem and save percentage, and the Coyotes entered with 2nd best. So both Coyotes goaltenders were like 9.34 and 9.23 or something, and then Hutton and Allmark are both hovering around 9.20 as well.
In spite of the result, I'm sure Hutton helped that number, because there was 40-something shots on him
Two
tonight.
goals on 44 shots, I want to say. So
that's over 95%.
Yeah, pretty good day at the office for Hutts again.
Fun fact, Jeff and I are playing each other in fantasy hockey this week. We'll keep you updated on that.
I forgot to say my lineup.
You're
welcome. I have Skinner on my bench right now.
What?
You had a good day.
Well,
it's day to day.
That's part of the... You fucked up.
I did.
You done messed up, Ron.
Before we conclude the show, we would like to transfer over to our new sponsored segment that we're throwing on here at the end of the show. Steve, I'll let you take this one away.
Yeah, it was our tasting segment brought to us by Hello Sweets Candy and Pop. Check them out. They're going to be getting some Christmas candy in soon, but our good friends Jessica and Tyler over there. Jessica runs the shop. Come support local business. Go check it out Tuesday through Saturday from 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. at 50 Main Street in the city of Tonawanda, right near the Riviera Theater. Go check out Hello Sweets Candy and Pop Shop. Really cool. All kinds of candy from all around the world, all different interesting kinds of soda, pop, whatever you want to call it, different weird tasting stuff. So I will warn you, I actually sent a message to the Slack chat today. I said, buckle up for our tasting today. So we do have something that tastes good. The candy that they gave us is highly recommended and very good. The pop, I didn't even tell you what the flavor is. It's up to you guys if you want to know.
Oh, I'm all in for going blind.
All right,
personally.
so if Jeff's
That's just
going blind,
me.
he should taste first.
Yeah, that's fine.
Because you have no clue what this is. You didn't see anything.
I'm all for it.
It's orange. It's orange pop.
That's
so
all
what
I
could
know.
possibly go wrong
We
with
got
orange
cold pop this week.
Yeah, I put it in the
Yeah,
fridge.
we actually thought to utilize
So
the technology.
I'm just going to
available.
give it to Jeff and let him drink
Perfect.
it.
Let's do it.
I mean, everyone else can have one too, but he's going in blind.
I don't want
Now,
the flavor either.
We were told that we don't have to like this. Like, we were said, like, hey, just because we sell this product doesn't mean you have to say it's great. Because some things are obscure enough that people will buy it to taste it anyway. This qualifies as obscure enough that someone might buy it to taste anyway.
But before I drink this, I would always encourage you that if you go in there, you can tell them the 716 Sports Podcast sent you. At 50-50 shot, they will either say, oh, that's cool, or they will kick you directly out of the store.
Yeah, do not pass go. All right, so Jeff's tasting it. I want to see. Oh, he's got a face, but he's looking up in the sky.
I'm trying to place the flavoring of it. It's very interesting.
Interesting in a good way. Interesting
It's got
in
a
a weird
lingering
way.
aftertaste to it.
Mike is an elite pop drinker, so I'm really looking forward to
He might
Mike's
have seen the
review.
label.
It actually smells funny. No, I wasn't able to see the label, but it smells funny.
I don't smell shit.
There is a kick to it at the end that I was not expecting.
Oh, Mike made a hideous face.
Mike's face was what I thought Jeff's might be.
I didn't. I mean,
I'm really
I'm not.
worried.
I'm
I don't
not
wanna try
looking
this.
to enjoy this in a large glass on a sunny day here, but I think I made it through with decent colors. I'm curious what everyone else thinks. I wasn't all about it.
Not good.
No, I'm not
going-
liking this
so
at all.
You guys take a small sip. I'm going down the hatch
It's
one shot here.
gross.
Oh, go for it, bud.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
He's gonna barf into his microphone.
That'd be a great sound effect. An audio medium here, folks. Justin.
He's learning how to
Go
use
for
the
it.
mixer.
Down the hatch it goes. Put on the echo effect if you do that. By the way,
He's reaching to the mixer.
It's not good.
Any guesses of the flavor?
there's something spicy to
Some kind
it.
of
It's
pepper,
really,
yeah.
yeah. It's almost like there's either a pepper
I'm
or
gonna say
cinnamon.
cotton candy habanero.
Nailed it. No, that's not it.
solid guess. I mean, it's.
Jeff's taking another sip because he's brave.
I really do think it's orange pepper or something.
I have no idea.
Well,
This is just
think
bad.
much more local.
When I think local, I can only think of Loganberry.
No,
No. This would be
I'm thinking local is probably brewed at
No,
Frostburg. That's
this is-
garbage.
this is not
Lester-
chicken wing, is it?
Lester Fixin's Buffalo Wing Soda. Lester Fixin's Buffalo Wing Soda. The first thing I taste is sweet and then spicy. I would not guess chicken wing. Thankfully, it doesn't
Well,
taste like
yeah,
chicken,
I
but it's
couldn't-
not good.
I couldn't figure out the sweet. That's why I said cotton
It's
candy.
like the first thing in the world that tasting like chicken is a good thing that it doesn't.
I
taste
think my
like
brain
chicken.
just wants me to think that anything that is orange colored is orange flavored. That's what I've been taught.
Oh, let's break
That's
this
what I
pop
taste.
down though. When you're at the meeting, when you're having a meeting about this pop flavor,
Yeah.
I got an idea for this pop.
Yeah,
Buffalo wing pop. All right.
it's like blend up chicken.
How
wing-
are you deciding
blend up
these-
chicken and add some carbonated water?
Let's discuss the flavors and how do you think you come to sweet and then the spice and what sweet flavor? I don't know.
Well, pure
What would you
cane
have
sugar.
How would you have executed this soda pop differently?
I would have ripped the page out of the notebook and thrown it in the trash and said, "You know
like,
what?
It's like that meme
We
with the guy
should
sitting
make-
at the boardroom table and they throw the one guy out the window.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we should make buffalo wings." So shut up.
Basically.
Yeah,
I will say this, and I'm not saying it at all because there's no pressure on me to say it. It is not as bad as I think the rest of you are making
it's not
it sound.
terrible. I just don't like it.
I would not buy this for myself personally, but I think there is a novelty to it.
Sure.
And I would encourage people who are listening who are like, I want to try this.
Try
it
it.
isn't like offensively
Yeah.
throw up on yourself
No.
bad. It's just kind of like different.
It's not
Should I have
good.
my wife come and try this on the show real quick? See what she
Yeah,
says.
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Go get her.
You start talking about the next candy, and I'll get to
Cool.
So
Perfect.
our candy today, this is good now. This is not meant to be bad. Highly endorsed by Jessica's kids. These are called Zots,
Okay.
apparently designed in Italy. Tyler, her husband, came by my house and dropped off the candy. And the way he described it was it's like a reverse warhead.
Okay. I'm interested.
Yeah, it's a candy, and apparently when you bite into it, it fizzes from the inside.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not sure, but there are several flavors here. None of them are like gross. There's apple, orange, blue raspberry, grape, strawberry, watermelon, cherry.
And throw a blue raspberry over in this
The
general
blue raspberry
direction.
goes to Jeff.
Hell yeah.
Mike.
I will take grape, please.
Grape goes to Mike. Justin, would you like apple, orange, strawberry, cherry, or watermelon? You don't have to say it into the microphone. You can just tell me.
I want to go watermelon.
Watermelon. Coming in hot. These are supposed to be good, Justin. They were described to me as a reverse warhead. So apparently you kind of suck on it, and then when you bite into it, it'll fizz. And these are highly endorsed by the owner's kids, who said they're like great. The owner's kid said the pink was the best flavor, so Justin just rooked all of us by taking the best flavor.
Got great.
So the design of it is basically like a warhead, the packaging and everything, but it's not sour at all. It's just like sweet. I haven't been into this one yet, but
Put the wrap
early
in the
returns are good.
microphone just for-
I went strawberry. Strawberry flavored anything is my favorite. Is Leslie coming in? Is she
No.
No? She won't try it?
She's busy putting the final touches on the old crock pot recipe. So
A noble profession. I think the crock pot becomes a staple of basically every relationship the farther you get into it. You want to make a lot of food for the two of you, but you also want to have the ease of let it slowly cook over a number of hours while you're both working, and the crock pot becomes the easy solution to all of that.
So the strawberry's wonderful. Apparently when you bite into it, it'll fizz in your mouth. Justin just laughed because he's 12 years old. We're all sucking on grapes.
It's a great audio medium for all of you.
Yeah.
Listen to me rattle this around in my mouth.
I'm afraid to bite it because I don't know how thick it is. I'm going in.
Steve's
Just kidding.
dentist be damned.
Just kidding. Here we go. Whoa!
It's an ASMR podcast.
That's really sour inside. Woo! That's sour. It's good. That's delicious. It's just really sour. My eyes squinted.
all right, I'm going in.
Yeah, go for it. And it does fizz. They were not lying. This is the best.
This is a great segment. I'm so glad we did this.
Grateful to Jessica and
Yeah,
Tyler.
thank you to Hello Sweets for allowing us to do this and sponsoring our weirdness at the end of the show. We, of course, encourage you to check them out. Steve remembers the address, I
Yeah,
know.
50 Main Street in the city of Tonawanda. That's Hello Sweets Candy and Pop Shop.
It's a very,
Open
very
11
local
a.m.
shop for those of us in the room here tonight.
11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Tuesday through Saturday. Now, here's the one catch here is they do listen to the podcast because you know they're going to listen and be like, we're pulling that sponsorship because you guys are trash. No, just kidding. They did really like last week, and we love partnering with local business, so we're grateful for them sponsoring this segment. And
So the overall endorsement on the candy, I'm very pro.
very good.
Candy's very
Right,
good.
it's quite good. Well executed. Like,
The soda, I think, is worth buying as a one-off novelty.
Yeah,
Don't
gotta try
stock
it.
your fridge with it. But if you're people who like trying random things like we do, which is how this whole kind of idea started when Steve came to us, is like, hey, there's a cool local shop that has these unique things, and we are all on board with it.
Yeah.
If you're of the like mind, give it a shot.
I think we should always try to compare these things to a Buffalo Sport thing. I'm going to compare that pop to the recent double reverse deep ball to a Pat DeMarco.
Just don't do it.
Yes.
Just take it out of the playbook.
You have to use everything. You have to try everything once, but then not again.
Never again.
And then I think the candy is kind of I can relate it to Marcus Johansson. You know, the signing at first sight. It's sweet, you know, and you enjoy it, but you don't know what you're gonna get, and then you bite into it, and you got a big surprise.
Wow factor.
I was going to say this candy's like the ability of Josh Allen to run the ball and pass the ball, because you look at it as like, oh, this is a warhead, but then you start eating the candy and it's literally the opposite. Like, oh, it's actually a quarterback who can run the ball, but he can't pass the ball.
Let me get that green sucker.
Apple, cherry, or orange?
Orange. I'm gonna get orange.
Orange. There's another
Sorry,
apple
Mike, I
on
cut
the
you
floor
off
if
there.
someone wants. Does someone want another candy? We have cherry and apple left.
Either.
There's another apple on the floor if you want it, or you can have the cherry. Mike?
I'll take cherry, please.
So good enough to go back for seconds.
Oh, yeah.
Much better than our Chewy Nerds experiment last
Yeah.
week, I will say that. Although that wasn't a Hello Sweets
Jessica
candy.
texted me and she goes, so I take it I shouldn't buy sour nerds for the store. I'm like,
Well,
well,
that's just our opinion.
Yeah.
We are a sports podcast who just has a sweet tooth. So
I do have a broken candy.
whoa.
So this might ruin
You
the
cheated.
experience a little bit, but I'm sure it'll still be great.
Anyway, while we're all starting to go into and devolve here, you can find this great podcast and many others like it on our social media, our Facebook at 716 Sports Podcast, on Twitter, all one word, at 716 Sport Podcast. We are on Spotify, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, all that fun stuff. I did want to close with one thing, if you guys are okay with it, before we go off the air. And
The orange is even better than the grape was.
there you go. Well, you heard it here first, folks.
Well, that's
go for the
cherry,
orange. You get the,
so there's that.
well, that.
Holy cow. All right, I'm going to bed.
This orange is so good it tastes like cherry. No, I'm sorry, Mike.
Yikes.
Yeah, that was cherry, wasn't it?
Something I probably should have talked about on the podcast last week, because I feel like it should have been something I really talked about first in this room. But if you don't stay tuned to our social media a lot, but you listen to the show, wanted to share an excitement with all of you that starting yesterday, actually, both myself and Eric, who is a voice you have heard on this podcast before many times on hockey broadcasts, will be doing all Canisius College men's home hockey games starting this season, which is very exciting for me. Graduate of the class of 2013 of Canisius, and it feels very much like coming home to go back to that institution and get to work with their team. So we're very excited about it. All games will be available online. You can find them on the internet. I'll tweet out links when it gets closer here, but it's really only possible because of this podcast and because of the people in this room and Bill and Eric, who are not presently in this room. We're all responsible for it. So it's feels like we've done a lot of work to get here, and with Justin and Steve doing the Buttes games, Mike's doing the UB games, myself and Eric doing the Canisius games, it's a little bit of a collective pat on the back for all of us to be so involved with local sports broadcasting and hockey broadcasting specifically. So it feels very rewarding at the end of the day to see the effort that goes into this show, although a lot of it happens while we're not recording these shows, kind of amount to something. So cheers, boys. And thank you all so much for listening. We'll be back here next Monday recapping Bills Redskins, some more Sabres action, and we hope to have you all back then. We'll talk to you soon.